All right, hello and welcome to Political Voice on a beautiful Thursday, right here, reaching you from Lagos and reaching you on this platform, Voice of the People Television on YouTube. Now, do well to subscribe to our page on YouTube as we have a whole lot for you. Now, this is a show, all right? Political Voice, that's what it is. We get off quickly with a ride into the latest developments from around the world of politics, both globally and locally. The US military says it has sent roughly 1.1 million bullets seized from Iran last year to Ukraine. The US Central Command, CENTCOM, which oversees operations in the Middle East, says the rounds were confiscated from a ship bound for Yemen in December. Ukraine's Western allies recently warned that their production lines were struggling to keep up with the rate at which Ukraine was using ammunition. Now, CENTCOM says the Iranian rounds were transferred to Ukraine on Monday. It added the ammunition was 7.62 millimeter caliber used in Soviet-era rifles and light machine guns. In addition, France's Armed Forces Ministry says the 1,500 French troops stationed in Niger will start withdrawing from border areas this week, and the base in the capital, Niamey, will be dismantled by the end of the year. Now, the action comes after French President Emmanuel Macron's announcement last month of an end to military cooperation with the ruling military junta. The military junta that has been running the country since a coup on the 26th of July had asked France to leave. Now, after recalling French Ambassador Macron last month announced the end of military cooperation with Niger and said he would not be held hostage by the junta. Now, the first to leave will be some 400 soldiers currently deployed in Ulam and Ayoro in the northwestern zone of the country's border with Mali and Burkina Faso. Now, let's bring it home to Nigeria, okay? The Chicago State University, CSU, has said it does not have the certificate President Bola Tinubu presented to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, prior to the 2023 general election. Caleb Westberg, the university registrar and deponent's witness, said this while giving an oral deposition on the release of Tinubu's academic records in his political to his political opponent Atiku Abubakar on Monday. A deposition is a process of taking a sworn out-of-court oral testimony of a witness. Now, this testimony may be reduced to a written transcript for use in court or for discovery purposes. Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate of the opposition People's Democratic Party (PDP), in the February 25 election, had requested the document to back his allegation of forgery of CSU certificate against Tinubu. Oh well, that'll be all for the roundup as we head into the main show already. Now, first on our radar, the Senate has moved to investigate the alleged killings and imprisonment of more than 250 Nigerians in Ethiopia. Actually, the figures we have is 270. That's what we have. And this followed a motion titled Urgent Need to Investigate the Unlawful Killings and Incarceration of Over 250 Nigerians in Ethiopia. Now, this was sponsored by the Minority Leader, Senator Simon Nwankwo, and Senator Victor Ume. And presenting the motion, Nwankwo urged the Senate to direct the committees on diaspora and foreign affairs to work with the federal government to immediately constitute a committee to visit the Republic of Ethiopia with a view to investigating what is happening to Nigerians in the foreign land. Now, he also called on the government to immediately direct the Ethiopian ambassador to collaborate with the delegation of the Senate Committee on Diaspora and Foreign Affairs to find a lasting solution to problems being faced or encountered by Nigerians who are held in Ethiopia. Now, he lamented that this was happening despite the clarion call for unity among nations of the world. I do have my guest with me in the studio. He's a retired commissioner of police in Oyo State. He's CP Chuks Enwon. Good to have you with us in the studio.
Good morning to you.
Good morning and welcome.
Good morning to the viewers.
All right, so this is where we are now. 270, that's the figure given by some reports. Some are saying 250, but the bottom line is it's above 250. And Nigerians in Ethiopia, there was a video that came out where it was said that Nigerians were, maltreated. What do you first of all, what do you make of this report? The number seems alarming to me. 250 Nigerians imprisoned and allegedly being maltreated.
Well, it's unfortunate that we have just gotten a report on Ethiopia. I think if other nations visited or this type of investigation is extended, you see a lot more in other countries, And the unfortunate thing is that this one has come to light because one or two people who are probably in sensitive position or highly placed must have had their relations involved in alleged incarceration in Ethiopia. Having said that, by international convention and norms, there are ways of treating prisoners. In as much as you have either they are under trial or they have been convicted, they have to enjoy their fundamental rights, human rights, to a reasonable extent. Is covered under the United Nations Charter.
Now, I was going to ask, is it possible? Because there's a doctor that put out the video, the said video, Dr. Paul Ezike,
yes,
put out the video saying Nigerians are being incarcerated for no just cause. Nigerians are being maltreated for no reason. But is it possible for a citizen of a country to be imprisoned in another country without having committed an offense?
That's where he has made an unguarded statement, because that statement is inappropriate. It is inappropriate or wrong in the sense that there are so many Nigerians across Africa and in diaspora. And the authorities in Ethiopia are not mental and they are not callous to the extent of spotting Nigerians and just making false allegations against them. So if you go deep in, you find out that all those, either whether 250 or 270 persons incarcerated for now, they must have done one thing or the other.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, going deeper now, yes. Report has it that the majority of them are incarcerated for drug-related offenses.
Okay.
But one will ask the question, if one is what does the law say? What does the law say to when an individual has been accused of drug-related offenses, having entered entered into the space of another country and being incarcerated? What does the law say? Should there not be repatriation, or will they be tried and judgment carried out over there?
You see, it depends on the understanding or agreements that must have been signed prior to such happenstance between Nigeria and some of those other foreign countries. Yeah. If there is no bilateral agreement or understanding whereby if such offenses are committed, they will package and repatriate such suspects or suspected persons down to Nigeria to face the trial, then you don't expect them to do that, so long as there is no such written agreement or understanding between the two nations. Otherwise, whatever is the rule or the laws prevalent in those nations, they'll have to apply it to Nigerians and non-Nigerians, and even their own citizens who may have fallen foul of the law, touching on things like drugs, because the implications of hard drugs on the youth, the coming generation, it cannot be underestimated. It has to do with health. It has to do with the future of the upcoming generations, and it has a lot of social implications. So that is why we take it seriously, and anybody that gets on the wrong side of the law will be dealt with appropriately. In some countries, they will even execute them to serve as deterrent for those who want to cross the red line.
Now, we know that it's not the first time that we're hearing things like this, but it's becoming somewhat troubling. Not too long, in the same year, Seychelles was placed a ban on the Nigerian passports because Nigerians that were trooping to that country, as small as the country is, Nigerians that were trooping in there were said to be perpetrating drugs. And, it was the authorities in the country, Seychelles, were troubled that you're bringing in drugs here, you want to deplete our population. So there was a hold placed on Nigerian passport holders from getting into the country. And we made noise about it on social media. Nigerians talked about it. Nigerians were troubled about it. But here we are again, Ethiopia, 250 to 270 Nigerians said to be held majorly on drug-related cases. And who should be more concerned now? What is the role of the government in all of this?
You see, the government...
Let's elaborate the role of the government in this.
Yes, you see, the government will always do its best. And it has, at every point in time, competing demands on issues bordering on political, economy, social, health, and so on and so forth. So the government cannot dedicate 100% on drug-related issues. First and foremost, the government have, or had in the past, set up National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. And other security agencies are also complementing them. Like if you go to the police, they still have sections that deal on narcotics. And when they make arrests of people who are carrying drugs, Indian hemp, and so on and so forth, they do preliminary investigations and transfer them to NDLEA for further action. So I think the government, especially in Nigeria, they've done a lot to checkmate this issue of people getting involved in drugs by way of education, orientation, and reorientation. They've extended it even to schools. But yet, the underlying factor there is the proceeds from dealing on drugs. Those who get involved, from what we have been finding out when they are profiled, get carried away because of the amount of money that comes out of it. So it appears there's compromise somewhere, I don't know where, that they still beat the security checks at the borders, either in the ports or
back home in Nigeria.
Back home in Nigeria, to get those things out to some other countries. And like Seychelles is a tourist destination. I've never been there before, but I have friends who have been going there for holidays, and they say it's a very beautiful island in the Indian Ocean, and a lot of tourists from all over the world are always flying in there to have their holidays with beautiful weather, beautiful beaches, hotel, resorts, and so on and so forth. So it's a very unfortunate thing that Nigerians will now capitalize on it, those misguided Nigerians, and they will want to go in there to go and ply their trade on drugs. And that is why I'm sure they must have been caught, and a number of times that would make them to raise a flag, red flag, against the Nigerian passport. You see, like, there is an adage in Igbo that says that when one finger picks oil, before you know it,
It soils the rest.
soils the rest. So when one or two unscrupulous elements get themselves involved in this illicit trade that is extremely dangerous to health and to the youth, it's now extending to even other Nigerian business community and those who want to enjoy their holidays in that destination called Seychelles. Once they say that the green passport is a suspicious passport, you know what that means? It cuts across. Even government officials are not spared. Genuine businessmen are also labeled as part of the cartel and all that. That's the consequence of the activities of those nefarious persons or group of persons dealing on drugs.
All right, so now let's look at what this doctor calls himself, Dr. Paul Ezike.
Yes.
What he has, put forward, the storyline that he put forward, the Nigerians will be maltreated, and there was a story, there was a talk about a female Nigerian who was in custody, Miss Favor Chizoba, who died in custody, and it was alleged that it was due to ill treatment by the Ethiopian authorities that led to her death, and that of some other Nigerians there. But the federal government, in response, they've come to refute that. The federal government have said, look, that the claim of maltreatment of Nigerians in Ethiopian correctional centers was blown out of proportion. It's not the way it was being made to look on social media or in the video or in the narrative by Dr. Paul Ezike. But here we are now. Once again, it's a large number of Nigerians to be accused of doing drugs.
Yes.
What is the procedure really? Shouldn't they be tried, and if found guilty, then judgment takes its course, and as against kept in prison over there? Which is the fastest thing, and what can Nigeria do actually at this point now?
What Nigeria can do at this point, diplomatically, is for the Nigerian ambassador or high commissioner in Ethiopia to engage the Ethiopian authorities, probably through their Minister for Foreign Affairs, and do a bit of inquisition into the status of all the persons in their custody, whether 250 or 270, and then go further to make a special request that based on the principles of justice delayed is justice denied, they will have to make a strong position or strong request that the people should be fastly profiled, and whatever is the cause of justice that should be visited on them, they should do that. If it entails them serving some sentence, let them run the course of justice as fast as possible. If it's either they are convicted or if there's no evidence against them, they let them go. Even if it entails repatriating them, fine, other than keeping them indefinitely. I know the excuse they may be giving is that they are still doing investigations. Because in the course of investigations, there are some people you will arrest. They will list some names. Maybe that's the source of the courier. And you look for maybe A, B, C, D. You can't get them. and you feel that trying this man will not be enough, that you need to get
all the people
the other people, though the co-conspirators. They may even be Ethiopians. Some of them could still be from either East Africa or even Arabs or Nigerians. So possibly in the course of trying to locate those people, to corroborate whatever information this man has passed or this lady would have given them, and check the veracity, whether it is correct or incorrect, and so on and so forth. Because why they take time to do all that is to see if they can block totally the source where some of those drugs would have been coming in.
Okay.
Yes. That is exactly why I think those people are kept longer than necessary. But that shouldn't be the right thing. It is not the norm, universally. It is expected that you do a speedy trial and either get them off the hook, or if there's sufficient evidence against them, you go ahead and give a ruling.
Try them.
Do a speedy trial, draw a conclusion. If you are sending them to jail, number of years, go ahead and jail them. Maybe when they are done with the jail, you repatriate them back to Nigeria.
That's the way it's done.
That's the way it's done.
Okay. Yes. All right now, and what would the call for NIDCOM be? Because NIDCOM, should be on this as well. If you were to make a call to NIDCOM, what would you say to them?
Yes, I will expect the NIDCOM to work hand in hand with the Nigerian representative, or whether he's either High Commissioner or Nigerian Ambassador to Ethiopia. They will work hand in hand with him and pursue the thing to the foreign affairs of Ethiopia to know the involvement or the status of each of the 250 to 270 suspected persons. The status, I mean, is what was the allegation? How long have they been in custody? Where is the evidence that so committed such crimes? What are the responses of the suspects? And so on and so on. They don't need to have all the details of the investigation, but in a précis manner, in brief, to have these facts so that they can report back to the federal government here at home. At least that's an evidence that they are working and that they know what they are doing anyway. It's not just to parade themselves around that there are people in diaspora, they are doing this, they are doing that. This is where they are supposed to work. It is expected of them because the 250 to 270 Nigerians are Nigerian citizens. Well, let's take it that either that they are victim of circumstances or they are those who deliberately went into the crime thinking they are very smart that they will not be caught, and they ended up being nabbed by the long arm of the law in Ethiopia.
All right, let me take an excerpt from this lawmaker. Or let me take an excerpt here. It says, quoting this a particular news source now, says, because Ethiopian airport, as the Bola International Airport, is a transit hub, it receives passengers. It's a transit hub to 127 destinations around the world. And then, there's an influx of people daily. And then they also have daily interception of drug traffickers. And sadly, Nigerians have been identified as major culprits. And this has contributed to what has been termed the undue profiling and ill treatment of a few innocent Nigerians transiting the airport. Now, let's look at this image. If Nigerians are being picked up in their numbers for trafficking in drugs in countries, what does that tell the world about Nigeria? And how can we clean this dirty linen as it is?
It's a stigma, and it sends a very negative image or impression on Nigeria and Nigerians. And to be frank, it's not only Nigerians that are involved in these sordid activities. Across the world, other citizens get involved in
Drug-related.
The drug-related cases and offenses. I don't know why they should be blowing that of Nigeria out of proportion.
You think that's
in
what
as
it
much
is?
as it is not encouraged in any way. And like this Ethiopian Addis Ababa airport as a reference point is a very busy airport. I've used that airport on my way to China some years back. So many aircrafts are transiting through there. So you come to find out that some of those people, I'm sure, who are in custody, may not have been going to Ethiopia as their final destination. Maybe some may have been going to Australia, some may have been going to India, some may have been going to Iraq, Iran, and so on and so forth. And they have to pass through Addis Ababa. So if they had compromised, possibly from Nigerian destination.
That means the border checks over there are tighter.
Yes, they are tighter. So they thought they would just come and cross like that without being properly profiled. So unfortunately for them, they were caught. So you find out that most or some of them have no business with Ethiopia. That's why I say the Diaspora Commission needs to do a thorough inquisition into this with the Foreign Affairs Ministry and Nigerian representative in the person of High Commissioner or Ambassador in Ethiopia. You find out a good number of them were not even going to Ethiopia as their final destination.
All right, so now what should be the next move now? Should Nigeria start, because there are also talks for prisoner exchange in cases where that is, in cases where that can be done. Should we start looking at that, or should we now talk to the Ethiopian authorities and say, look, prosecute or bring back our people, or should those that have perpetrated crime be made to face the wrath of the law in the countries in which they have perpetrated the crime?
That last bit is the appropriate one.
They should be made to face the law.
Yes, if you commit, whether in Egypt or in Morocco, face the law there.
That way, there will be it will be a deterrent.
Yes, it will be a deterrent. It will serve as deterrent to those who would think that it is uhuru for you to just take whatever out there and become a multi-millionaire. You see, the value system has collapsed completely in the country. And the leadership, too, have a blame in this respect and regards. Because a situation where you see some few people who just join politics, before you know it, whether at local government level or state level or at the federal level, he's now moving around in convoy of exotic cars and, in the communities and society, which are now bereft of values, you see them being celebrated, both by the church, by the traditional institution. Then those who are hardworking will feel that, is it because I am not in politics, I am now considered a failure? It is now when he feels that he cannot go that route, that he there will now be tempted to try other options. And that is what really leads them to go to this other route. And unfortunately for them, that route is not an easy one. That's why they may compromise in terms of security here in Nigeria. And they will be told, safe journey. When they get somewhere midway, like this Ethiopian experience, they'll be caught there. And they will begin to face these hazards and possibly may end up being incarcerated to serve some sentence, some years in imprisonment in that country. And it applies, not just this one is the one we know for Ethiopia. Kenya has not opened up their own, or South Africa. There are so many that, even in West Africa here, if Cote d'Ivoire opens their own now, their own Pandora box, you'll be wondering, so some Nigerians are involved in this, and so on and so forth. So the thing is that we need total social reorientation. Okay. The leadership need to do something drastic. That is why I am one of those in the school of thought that we should emphasize plumps and pegs in public offices, all the levels. They should be on part-time basis. That's what they do in some other countries. In US, in UK. Parliamentary, who are you as a member of the House of Commons or House of Lords? You just be passing like any other person. But here you see them with convoy, with escort, with siren. Somebody that you know as an incomplete the previous time in your community. Suddenly, because he is good in touting or political thuggery, they bring him in, give him ticket, and the next day they start calling him honorable. Then he will now be flouting the thing, flouting the wealth. It's unfortunate. That's what is costing all this
desperation.
Desperation and sad news of people getting involved in crimes, very violent crimes. Some, if they don't know how to go about drugs, they will get themselves ganged up and prepare for kidnapping. They will look for potentials that money will come from. And these are things that are heightening crime.
And you think that can be pegged on the altar of the standard of living, really?
Standard of living is one thing, but our attitude
is another thing.
Is another thing. We need, our values has been eroded completely. And we need total reorientation at all levels, starting from catch them young, from nursery into primary. You begin to tell them these and these and these are vices. You need to celebrate people who are cerebral, those who have distinguished themselves in both academic exercise, in arts and crafts. Even if the man is a carpenter or plumber and he does something spectacular, you need to celebrate them and encourage them. Don't be looking at those that you call success stories, because suddenly from nowhere, you don't know how the wealth has come. Musicians will be, reeling out tracks and eulogizing and singing those person or persons. These are things that are eroding the values in our society. It has to be discouraged if we have to move forward. And that is why when people enter the government, there's that tendency to loot. Because there is this primitive acquisition tendency, to grab and grab and grab, because you don't know whether the opportunity will come again the next day. I mean, what signals are they sending? It then turns out that those who must have acquired 2-3 PhDs, that they have wasted their time. That's the message you're sending to the youth. That man who was in charge of Motor Park, who didn't even go to school, should be somebody to be emulated. Because look at him coming back to the community with escort and siren, with exotic vehicles. I mean, we have completely derailed in Nigeria, to be very frank with you.
All right, and this is where we'll drop anchor on the program. We have derailed in Nigeria, and we need reorientation.
Totally.
Total reorientation.
Exactly.
All right, that's where should it start from? The home, the school?
Both. They'll start home to school, right into the governance. They need to do a lot, whether in the legislature.
But you know what they say about
there's
a proverb that when a fish starts to rot, it starts from the head.
Oh.
Why can't we start the reorientation from the head? From those in the position of authority. Yes.
Whichever angle you take it, we need it for the society to grow and to move out of the quagmire we find ourselves. We're in a total mess, completely total mess.
All right. Unfortunately, sir.
It is very, very sad.
All right, we'll keep an eye on this one and believe that good news will come in the days to come. And Nigerians, those that are innocent, will be released, and those that have committed the crime, well, we'll see what happens. I must say a very big thank you to you, CP Chuks. Thank you for coming on the program, and thank you for staying with us. Now, CP Chuks is a former commissioner of police of your state. Well, that's it on the program today, Political Voice. It makes a return tomorrow. See you then.